or the political topics that happened throughout this week. We start first with the trial of the ousted Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi and the 14 co-defendants, which continued on Wednesday. Morsi, his presidential aides and senior Muslim Brotherhood leaders are accused of inciting the murder and torture of opposition protesters outside the presidential palace in December 2012.
And we also have the Egyptian armed forces have destroyed 10 hideouts of suspected militants in the Sinai Peninsula and arrested 4 suspects as part of an ongoing campaign against the Islamist insurgents in the region.
And Egypt's foreign ministry said on Tuesday it had summoned Qatar's chargé d'affaires to demand the extradition of Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, one of the most influential Sunni Muslim clerics in the Middle East.
And we have the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam as well, which will have a negative effect on the Egyptian monuments because of the instability of the ground after water recedes. And the Egyptian Minister of Antiquities, Mohammed Ibrahim, said that on Tuesday. And we have with us, joining us today, Dr. Ahmed, who is a professor of political science and political analyst. Hello, Doctor.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
It's a great pleasure to have you with us today. And let's first start with the topic, which is the trial of the ousted President Mohamed Morsi. What is your observation about the trial, and what is your observation about the series of sessions that we have witnessed lately?
I do believe that the security forces are really doing a hard job in terms of securing the trials of Morsi and his followers. Morsi has really pulled Egypt into a lot of problems, and he's facing really a death penalty on a number of issues, such as the black carbon, the spying with Hamas, and also trying to give other countries things like Sinai to Hamas and Shalatim and Halab to Sudan, etc. On the internal side, Morsi has really done a very bad job in terms of running the economy and the political scene. Going back to the trial of Morsi, I think it's going very well, despite the hardness that the security forces are facing with the followers of Morsi in terms of attacks, the bombing, and so on. I think the trial is also going a lot better than what was going on with Mubarak at the time, in terms of more security.
Next question, Mohammed, if you can give us like an insight of the comparison maybe between the two trials.
Despite the mistakes of Mubarak was really worried about the country that goes into this turmoil or the violence. So that's why he stepped down, and also he was playing a very peaceful role in terms of the trials. While Morsi was not worried about the Egyptian and the collapse that Egypt can face during his trials by his followers. So he keeps really mobilizing his followers to attack the security forces and also run the country into a violence and a civil war. So the major difference really is between a commander in an army officer who loves Egypt, yet he did a bad job, and Morsi, who's actually a spy against the Egyptians.
So if we're looking at the charges itself in the trial, so from a high level or holistic view, what are the charges against the ousted president?
The main charge that Morsi faces is the black carbon issue, where he really spied against Egypt, giving confidential information to the United States, CIA. He's really major part in that. And then secondly, also spying with Hamas on Egypt, exchanging information with a foreign entity. On top of that, also he's facing a number of corruption issues in terms of putting his followers into position, acquiring a lot of resources of Egyptians not by the right way. So I think he's facing a death penalty if the security forces and the legal system can prove all these issues against him.
Well, moving to another controversial issue that's going on these days is, of course, the candidacy for presidency, Field Marshal Sisi. Now, he's gained a lot of popularity, but now, once he's about to become a candidate, presidential candidate, there has become a little bit of opposition in the sense that some people are opposing and some people are now for him. What is the reason for this controversy that's just coming up?
Let me go back to June 30th. Marshal Sisi has really faced 3 alternatives, and he had to choose one. Either take Morsi's side and start a campaign of imprisonments to the protesters, or take the people's side and help in overthrowing Morsi's government or regime, or remain neutral. And I think the personal and the human characteristics of Sisi has really led him to take the people's side. And at the moment, he's become the warrior leader or the hero of the Egyptians. Now, taking him into the presidential candidates, I personally don't prefer him to go into the presidential campaigns, and I still think that he's not going to. Sisi is a man of information. He was a chief of the Secret Service. He knows how to use information, so I don't think he will go. In terms of going, at the moment, we don't really need anything from Sisi as the Minister of Defense. But as soon as he steps into the president's sphere, then he'll be facing a number of issues that he has to deal with: economic, political, socio-cultural, etc. So, is he really going to be able to be a good president? Based on his characteristics, I do believe he's going to be a good president, because he also put himself in a position of Gamal Abdel Nasser, the hero that is always remembered by the Egyptians. So yes, there will be people against him and people will be with him. And I could see that a number of highly educated people are started to say, no, we don't want Sisi as a president. We like him as the defense minister. We want him to help build institutions in Egypt without being the president. Help us to run into a new phase of democracy without going back to the army rule.
Yes. So one of the charges against the ousted president is accused of inciting the murder and torture of opposition protesters outside the presidential palace in December 2012. And at that time, it was said, it was a fact that the Muslim Brotherhood supported. They went and they attacked the protesters who had set in front of the presidential palace. However, there was a significant amount of weapons that was induced, and death happens from both sides, whether the opposition and the other side. So do you think it is fair, the situation where only one side is being tried at this specific trial?
I'd like to go back to the period between January 25th and June 30th. I think the Muslim Brotherhood, based on the agreements they made with the States and Qatar, they knew they're going to run the country, and they were preparing for a civil war. So a lot of weapons that came into Egypt were during that period of the 2 years. They didn't come when Morsi was in power. I think the charges that Morsi is facing about 29 charges, and I think they're all correct, but again it goes back to the legal system, whether they're going to be able to prove these accusations or not. At the moment, I'm quite happy that the Egyptians are seeing or viewing the trials of Morsi live on TV, because it helps a lot of people that still believe in Morsi that yes, he's been accused, and yes, there is a lot of evidences against him that can really take him to a death penalty. He's really able to mobilize a lot of his followers that have no idea what Morsi has done and what the Muslim Brotherhood has done in damaging Egypt over the last 3 years.
So leveraging or picking up from the word damage, the trust system in Egypt with the government and with the number of entities has been damaged. So people, when they are thinking about trials, now the former and ousted president Hosni Mubarak is an innocent man until he's accused of having any verdict against him. So the people are thinking, since the trust is damaged, or this bridge of trust is damaged between the Egyptians and the system, or the upcoming administrations and regimes, do you think it is a balanced situation where you see an innocent ousted president 3 years ago with almost 1,000 killed and thousands being injured, and a very important milestone for Egypt, which is the 25th of January revolution, while this situation or this trial for the ousted president, for some opposition today, is feeling it's more of a retaliation for what happened, or for the ruling period and the failure in this ruling period?
I'd like to go back to the January 25th revolution and June 30th. I think in Egypt we really have a culture with problem in dealing with democracy and dealing with political systems. At the moment, when people saw what the Muslim Brotherhood has done to Egypt in terms of political, economic and social damage, they're saying, well, Mubarak was a lot better. We need to change that tone of talking. We can't say Mubarak was better or Muslim Brotherhood is better. But at the moment, we've got a lot of poor in Egypt. Over 42% of Egyptians are poor. All they need is bread. And at the moment, you do expect these people to go back and say, well, Mubarak was a lot better.
Yes.
The problem that we're having at the moment is a weak political reality led by probably over 80 political parties that are all weak, have no vision and have no programs. And at the moment, if you look at the political situation in Egypt, we've got three groups: Mubarak followers, the followers of Morsi and Muslim Brotherhood, and the people that have no idea what is going on. So you will see always people shifting from one group to another.
Yes.
The reality that we're facing at the moment, with the trial of Morsi, are the National Party leaders during Mubarak will be able to come over again and rule the country? It's a possibility. Will part of the Muslim Brotherhood, the sleeping cells, will be able to get into power again? There is a possibility. So what we need at the moment is a lot of TV programs led by the Ministry of Culture to try to educate Egypt. Doesn't mean that Morsi was bad, then Mubarak is better. No. It has to get worse before it gets better. And in a previous program, I talked about why it gets, or it takes between 3 to 5 years. After revolutions, always three groups of people come on board. The charismatic groups, led by a number of charismas, like Amr Musa, establish a party, so people follow Amr Musa, not necessarily the party. Number two, the idealistic groups that they basically enforce certain ideas, and we see the Muslim Brotherhood playing on the religious ideology. And the third group is the clientele, the ones that pay people to support them. And we've seen really over 3 years, so my expectation, it will go into the next 2 years, the same chaos that we have, until we're really able to run ourselves as a new democracy, and we will get there.
Well,
yes.
Dr. Ahmed, just moving on to another next step, which is the extradition of Yusuf al-Qaradawi,
yes,
that we've just heard a couple of days ago, who lives in Qatar. What do you see the most flagrant mistakes that al-Qaradawi has been doing, and why has he been attacking his country?
There's a lot of pictures that show Qaradawi with the leaders of Mossad in Israel, with the leaders of Israel, the leaders of certain terrorist groups. I think the power of Qaradawi remains in the weakness of Egypt. During the reign or the time of Mubarak has really displayed Egypt as a very weak country that we always take on other criticism. So I think if Qaradawi knew that Egypt is a powerful country and will able to get him when he really crosses the red line, he wouldn't be able to do that. At the moment, we are facing, as 92 million Egyptians, facing a country of 300,000, that we really asking them nicely to extradite Qaradawi. I think we need to be a lot more stronger. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs need to play a stronger role in pulling or in even getting into an international mediation, or take them to the United Nations complaint that you are hosting terrorists. And also the media needs to play a role in here, accusing Qatar of hosting terrorists, because that's exactly what Americans were doing in Iraq and in Afghanistan. You're hosting terrorists and we'll come and attack you. So I think we need to be a lot more stronger in dealing with Qatar. And extraditing the ambassador is not really an issue. It's not going to, break them. But what we need to do is really be a lot more stronger on the political front.
Yes. Dr. Ahmed Mehna, I'd like to thank you very much, Professor of Political Science and a political analyst. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now let's move on for a short break and returning back for more.